Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. On this channel we talk about all things fandom and we talk about them in a positive way. If that's something that appeals to you, you know you've come to the right place and we're so happy to have you here. Today we have to talk about the movie Sick that premiered this month on Peacock, direct to streaming, and we're going to talk about it. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the movie and tell you whether or not I think it's worth it in this non-spoiler review. So let's jump right into it. All right, so the movie Sick is a brand new film by Kevin Williamson. It actually released in September 11th of 2022, but didn't come to the United States until January 13th of 2022 on Peacock. Well, then we get to see this movie, and I have to say, for a Kevin Williamson slasher film, this one kind of surprised me just a bit. So the plot starts off in April of 2020, at the height of quarantine, and we get to see this kid go into a store and he is brutally murdered. Well, then we meet these two girls who are going to a lake house to quarantine, one of their family's lake houses, and they're gonna kind of have some fun and just quarantine, chill out. They don't expect anybody to be there, but they have indeed been followed. That is what is the plot of this movie, and it only gets more and more insane from there. So, as with any slasher film, having this small cast actually worked to its advantage. It allowed it to have to resort to being a little bit more suspenseful. We started to care about these girls, whereas later on in the script, when you start to find out different things, you may not have quite felt that way. This does a good job of spinning the reels in terms of how you're supposed to feel about characters. Because ultimately, when you look at characters in slasher films, you're usually not really on board with liking them. A lot of the characters in slasher films aren't very likable, and I can honestly say that these two girls come across as likable from the very beginning of the movie. So you start to feel a little bit for them, and you don't want to see anything happen to them. Then when their friend shows up, their friend isn't as likable as them from the beginning, but he is sort of still likable, and you start to really root for him as well. So they present this smaller cast as a way to kind of divert your expectations and try to make sure that you have to resort to liking these characters. And that's a real trick. And Kevin Williamson does a good job of spinning this tell. And the whole isolation thing really does come into play here. It's got a little bit of humor in it. It makes a little bit of light of the whole situation in some ways. It tends to play that way because it's a Kevin Williamson film and we know his style of filmmaking. So there's definitely a little bit of Scream reference style to it that you can get behind. That whole meta vibe of you're watching things that have happened in the real world. And it's very up to date in terms of how it deals with things. So that's kind of something that makes the film unique. However, I also feel that one day that is ultimately what's going to date this film. What's going to make you look at this film and go, okay, this can't take place any time but this. And when a movie does that, I do feel that it hurts the movie. It's like when they do jokes in movies and the jokes are so outdated that it can only happen during that one period in time. This movie falls into that trap, but then at the same time, the pop culture references, the little references they throw in to things that are happening currently in our world or were happening currently in 2020 is very relevant to this film, and it works for the film in every way. Now, without giving you spoilers, you know that if this is a Kevin Williamson slasher film, and I've told you there's a little bit of Scream vibe to it, you can pretty much guess what happens. And the movie doesn't disappoint. I do feel that the ending of this movie could have been better, but ultimately, I think they might have been going a little bit more for this ultra realistic look to the movie where there are consequences to every single action within the movie. And that kind of film telling reminds me a lot of Last House on the Left, although this movie wasn't as brutal as all of that. It definitely has a little bit of those vibes as well, where you feel as though sometimes the camera isn't there, that you're not supposed to be there with them, and that can be good as well. Overall, I give this movie 3 stars, and I only give it 3 stars because there is periods of time where this movie may move a little slower, where this movie could be telling us a little more. There's times when I feel like they forget to tell us something, where they forget to kind of let us in on something that they're planning on doing or have done. And I get that that part's supposed to be a surprise, but having it be too much of a surprise in the last act or in the second act can actually hurt a movie a little bit. In this case, it kind of does in some ways because ultimately you don't get to see some of the stuff going on. But I do like the movie. I thought it was pretty good. It's definitely worth a watch. It is on Peacock streaming right now, so you can definitely stream it. I give the movie 3 stars. Check it out. Alright, so let us know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're sharing this video with all of your friends so that they can be a part of the conversation as well. Don't forget to smash that like button because it helps the channel. It's free, it don't hurt, and we appreciate it so much. And then Miko says we need more subscribers, and you don't want to disappoint Miko. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video we do. And then friends, at the end of the day, fandom is family.